There is a company most Americans have never heard of. It does not make phones. It does not sell software. It does not have a celebrity CEO or a headquarters that shows up in lists of cool places to work. What it has is the ground beneath your feet. Vulcan Materials Company is the largest producer of construction aggregates in the United States. Crushed stone, sand, gravel, the raw material that goes into every road, every bridge, every foundation, every building built in this country. In 2024, the company generated $7.4 billion in revenue. Its market cap sits at roughly $38 billion. It ships over 200 million tons of material every year across a coast-to-coast footprint that aligns almost perfectly with the fastest-growing cities in America. You have never heard of them. That is exactly how they like it. To understand why Vulcan Materials is one of the most powerful companies in American construction, you have to understand what aggregates actually are and why they matter. Concrete is what people think of when they think of construction, but concrete is only as strong as what goes into it, and what goes into it is aggregate. Crushed stone, sand, and gravel make up roughly 60 to 75% of concrete by volume. They are the base layer under every mile of asphalt highway. They are the drainage material under every structure. They are, in a very literal sense, what America is built on. And here is what makes aggregates a uniquely powerful business. You cannot move them. A ton of crushed stone is worth very little once you factor in transportation costs beyond a certain radius. The quarry has to be close to the job site. That means whoever owns the quarry in a given market effectively controls the supply of one of the most essential materials in construction for that entire region. There is no importing your way around it. There is no digital substitute. If you are building in Atlanta, you are buying from whoever owns the rock near Atlanta. If you are building in Dallas, same story. Vulcan Materials has spent decades buying that rock. Quarry by quarry, acquisition by acquisition, building a portfolio of reserves that in many markets is simply irreplaceable. The company was founded in 1909 in Birmingham, Alabama as a basic materials supplier. For most of its history, it was a regional business, quietly supplying the construction boom of the American Southeast. What transformed it into a national empire was a strategy most Wall Street analysts understood, but almost no one outside the industry noticed. Buy the land, lock in the reserves, and wait. Aggregates reserves take decades to permit. Environmental review, community opposition, regulatory hurdles. Getting a new quarry approved in a major metropolitan area today is extraordinarily difficult, which means the quarries that already exist are worth far more than their book value suggests. Every year that passes without a new competitor entering a market, the existing producer's position gets stronger. Vulcan understood this earlier and more aggressively than almost anyone. By the time the infrastructure spending boom arrived, driven by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the CHIPS Act, and a decade of deferred public construction, Vulcan was already positioned in the markets where the money was going to flow. In 2021, the company made its position even clearer. It acquired U.S. Concrete, one of the largest ready-mix concrete suppliers in the country, for $1.3 billion. The deal gave Vulcan direct exposure to the finished concrete market in major metropolitan areas, including California, Texas, and the Northeast, the three largest construction markets in the country. Aggregates into concrete, concrete into structures, one company controlling more of the chain. Here is what makes this business model almost impossible to replicate. The aggregates industry has what investors call a wide moat, not because of patents or trade secrets, but because of geography and regulation. You cannot build a quarry near a city that does not already have one. The permitting process alone can take 10 to 15 years. The community opposition is intense. The environmental review is extensive. And even if you cleared every hurdle, the capital required to build a large-scale quarrying operation from scratch runs into the hundreds of millions of dollars before you ship a single ton. What that means in practice is that Vulcan's existing reserves are a nearly irreplaceable asset. The company controls over 20 billion tons of permitted and proven aggregate reserves. At current shipping rates, that represents roughly a century of supply. They are not just selling rock. They are sitting on a century of pricing power in markets that are growing. And the demand is not slowing. Infrastructure spending in America is at generational highs. Every dollar of federal infrastructure funding that flows into roads, bridges, and public construction passes through the aggregates market first. Before a highway gets paved, before a bridge gets built, before a foundation gets poured, someone buys crushed stone. In most markets, that someone buys it from Vulcan. Here is the payoff. Vulcan Materials is not a glamorous company. It will never trend on social media. Its product is too heavy to ship across the country and too unglamorous to attract casual attention. But it operates at the foundation of the entire American construction economy in a business with structural barriers that would take a competitor decades and billions of dollars to replicate, serving markets that are being flooded with federal infrastructure money for the next 10 years. The most powerful businesses in any industry are often the ones that own the thing everyone else needs, but nobody thinks about. In American construction, that thing is the ground itself. Vulcan Materials figured that out a long time ago. The rest of the industry is still building on top of it. If you want to understand the money and power behind the business of building America, the companies, the deals, the strategies that nobody talks about, this channel is where that story gets told. Subscribe and do not miss what comes next.